All right, podcasters of the world, exciting news today. Our friends from Focusrite have introduced a new line of interfaces specifically for podcasters. Please meet the Vocaster Series. They're going to come in two flavors. We have the Vocaster 1 and the Vocaster 2, very aptly named, given their functionality. And these are purpose-built for podcasting specifically. They're coming off of the same kind of vibe as the Scarlett series, which has been incredibly popular in streaming and podcasting for the last several years, in addition to home recording. But they took that same sort of product quality and format, and they kind of flipped it around to make it more purpose-built for podcasting. There's a couple features that we're going to walk through, a couple different elements of this device that make it really awesome for podcasting, super easy to get a really good sound without needing to do too much stuff. It's basically like having a podcast engineer in your interface at all times, just helping you sound as awesome as you possibly can. So we're going to focus on the Vocaster 2, which is what we have in front of us today. But just know the Vocaster 1 is a single channel version of the Vocaster 2. So what we have here on the Vocaster 2 is we have two super high quality mic preamps, two inputs for microphones. And I say really high quality because they have over 70 dB of gain inside each individual mic input. Why is that important? Well, the microphone that we're recording this portion of this video with is the RE20, which is an incredibly gain-hungry microphone, one of the greatest broadcast podcast microphones on the planet. But generally, if you had been plugging this into any other equipment, other mixers, other interfaces, you'd probably find that those mixers needed a lot of juice to get them going. You had to crank that gain up really high, and you'd still find that you were lacking and you were introducing a lot of hiss and noise into the mix. The Vocaster has over 70 dB of gain, which is basically like having one of those nifty cloud lifters built into the interface, ready to go. So the audio that you're hearing right now is the RE20 straight into the Vocaster 2. That's it. And I'll tell you what, sounds pretty good. Sounds pretty good. In a minute, we'll swap this out and we'll try it with the SM7B, and then we'll compare it to a pod mic, which is another purpose-built podcast microphone, but that did not really need that extra juice. So you can kind of compare, and we can kind of listen to the differences between the RE20, the SM7B, and a pod mic, just to get a lay of the land and see what things are really sounding like. So we have our mic input. As we look at the Vocaster, there's a couple things to take into consideration. We have one central gain knob that's going to control the gain for both microphones independently. So you have a host and you have a guest mic, and you can pop back and forth between the two. And all you're doing is selecting which microphone you're actually adjusting the gain for and the settings for at that individual time as we switch between the two. You have a mute button. You couldn't hear me there because I was muted because I pushed the mute button. So you have a mute on each channel. So that's your cough button, your sneeze button, something like that. So you can mute each individual microphone as your multi-track recording into the device or into your computer. You have gain set or volume settings for each microphones or each user. So each individual podcaster also has their own headphone output, so that we can each have our own headphones, our own volume. You don't need any headphone splitter. You don't need any headphone amplifier. It's got it all built into the device, super easy and ready to go. A couple other cool features that make this really easy to get podcasting right away. You have an enhance button right on the interface, and this engages a set of features that come with the Vocaster Hub, which is the software unit that we're actually using right now to kind of control the Vocaster. There's different settings inside of the enhance button. So you can do bright, you can do warm, you can do dark, you can do radio kind of sound, different kind of enhancement settings. So we can have the enhancement off, and you just kind of have the microphone dry, gain, straight in, ready to go. And then you have the enhancement on, which adds a little bit more life, a little more clarity, a little more of that richness to the sound to just maximize the sound. And everyone's voice is different. Every microphone is different. So they give you a couple different settings in there that you can tailor to the guest or yourself to make sure that you sound your best on every podcast that you do. The other cool thing about the Vocaster and the whole Vocaster series in general is that they also have this unique auto gain setting. So when you're plugging your mic in for the first time, you don't want to have to dial in the gain just so and check meters and levels and stuff like that. And of course you can do that. It has really good visual feedback on the Vocaster, but you can also just hold the button, and I'm talking into the microphone right now. You probably can't hear this, but it's adjusting the gain based off of how loud I'm talking and what I'm looking at. And when it comes back in, my gain is set perfectly. I'm dialed in. I sound exactly like I should, given my distance, given my volume, given where I'm at with it. And it just makes it sound as best as it possibly can. The Vocaster, both the 1 and the 2, also have a Bluetooth connectivity so that you can connect your phone for phone calls, introducing backing tracks or sound bites or anything else like that. But you can also do complete phone calls, Samsung, iPhone, whatever it might be. And you can bring them into your podcast, and the Vocaster Hub is going to have a soft fader for that channel. So you can bring the guest in, and you can adjust their volume independently. You can mute them. You have total control over their sound. You also have 2 loopback channels. Loopback channels are useful if you're going to be bringing in audio from your computer and you want that back into the recording. So that may be someone on a Zoom call or a Teams call or some other virtual call, Skype or something like that. It may be audio from YouTube. It might be audio from some other audio source that lives inside your computer, but you want to treat that as its own track in your podcast. So you have 2 additional loopback channels in addition to the Bluetooth. You also have an aux input, so you have another input for your phone if you wanted to hardwire it. You can also just think of that as another input to the device. So incredible amount of input and output functionality built in. You also have a couple different ways of getting out of the device. So it is an audio interface, so it has inputs and outputs. So it has the 2 headphone outputs that are on the front, a host headphone output and a guest headphone output. You also have 2 line outputs, so if you're going to plug them into a set of speakers, maybe you're doing a live podcast, or you just want people in the room to be able to hear you without wearing headphones, you have that as well. And then you also have a camera output, so if you're going to be doing a video podcast or a vlog or something along those lines, maybe you're streaming, and you want to plug the audio straight into your camera. It has a separate output for that as well. So Focusrite's really thought of all the ins and outs that you're really going to need to kind of come up with a successful podcast without needing too many other buttons. Really low frills, not a steep learning curve, pretty simple, but operating at a really high level and giving you everything you need at your fingertips to do podcasts right away. So next we're just going to do a couple different sound bites. We're going to do the RE20, which you're hearing right now. We'll swap it out. We'll plug it into the SM7B. And then we'll go into the pod mic, so just so you can get a feel for what this sounds like. Okay, so right now we're listening to the RE20 dry, no enhancements, already just using the auto gain settings on the Vocaster. And now I'm going to hit the enhance button, and we're using the warm enhancement built into the Vocaster Hub software. So we have RE20 with the warm enhancement. We have RE20 dry. Let's do the auto gain again. Check 1, 2. Test. SM7B. This is the SM7B. This is the SM7B. We're checking it, we're testing it, and we're locked in. And now we are good. Okay. This is the Shure SM7B directly into the Vocaster 2. Just completely dry, just cable, microphone, and Vocaster. And now we're going to hit the enhancement button. And again, we're listening to the warm enhancement built into the Vocaster Hub. So this is the Shure SM7B with the warm enhancement on. And then the Shure SM7B dry, just the microphone by itself. Let's push the gain up a little bit more just so we can hear how it sounds. So you can get a lot of gain out of this thing. It does exactly what it says it's supposed to do. That sounds pretty awesome. That's as good as an SM7B can sound. Pretty on point. We'll set the auto gain just so that everybody's fair in terms of how good they sound. Check two, pod mic. And we're in. All right, cool. And now we're listening to the Rode pod mic, again, straight into the Vocaster 2. This is dry. There's no enhancements on it right now. And then if we hit the enhance button, now we're listening to the warm setting in the Vocaster Hub and the Vocaster 2 on the pod mic. This is it. This is how it sounds. So you can hear it can really handle any microphone, no matter what you throw at it. It's going to find a way to sound its best All the microphones that we listened to have been using the auto gain settings built into the Vocaster, and we've been trying out the different enhancements on and off. So one more time, the enhancement on right now with the warm, and then off, just completely dry the pod mic by itself into the Vocaster 2. The Focusrite Vocaster 1 and Vocaster 2 are available for pre-order right now at Chuck Levin's and chucklevins.com. And the Vocaster setups are coming additionally as bundles, the Vocaster 1 Studio and the Vocaster 2 Studio. They're going to come with Focusrite's new microphone and headphone offering so that you have a complete podcast package ready to go. But if you wanted to build your own package with one of the microphones that we've demoed here or anything else that you might need, give us a shout, text us, give us a call. Ready for you. Happy podcasting.